Hey friends, and welcome back to Pastors' Wives Tell All. Today, we are so pumped to be joined by our friend, Tara Sun. Tara is the host of the podcast, Truth Talks with Tara, and the author of Surrender Your Story and Overbooked and Overwhelmed. Tara is passionate about helping women know, love, and live God's word in the everyday moments of life. In this conversation, Tara offers ministry leaders practical and hope-filled encouragement for when life feels like too much. She shares how to recognize the difference between true priorities and endless tasks, and how to set healthy boundaries without guilt, how to let go of what doesn't matter so we can focus on what actually does. If you've been feeling overbooked, overwhelmed, or just plain weary, this episode will remind you that you don't have to carry it all, even when it feels that you do, and that God has something so much better for you. So let's get to this important conversation.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Stephanie.
And you are listening to Pastors' Wives Tell All,
A podcast by pastors' wives for church leaders and anyone desiring to take a peek inside our glass house.
We are breaking down walls and crushing pastors' wives stereotypes within the church.
We want pastors' wives and other ministry leaders to know that they are not alone in this. Plus, this is basically therapy for the three of us with a whole lot of dance parties. Woo,
Hey, Tara. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, you guys. I have been looking forward to this since, honestly, I kind of really wanted to talk to you guys in a more deep way after being at, She Speaks Together a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so this is a fun opportunity to be able to sit down and chat over a podcast. So
It's gonna
thanks
be
for
so
having
good.
me.
I'm stoked too, because I felt like you were such a down to earth, just sweet person when I got to meet you. And I remember like your husband as well. And just like
Yes.
seeing you
Yeah.
in that that mom and dad mode. And I think we
Yeah.
talked about kids and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think we just all were like, okay, yeah, we need to chat
Aw.
with her. She's amazing.
Well, thanks. No, it was so fun. I distinctly remember talking to you, Stephanie, like outside of, so She Speaks, for people listening, is Lisa Turker's conference for Christian women communicators. And we were all speakers there. And I remember talking to you, Stephanie, with my husband there. And I think we were talking about kids and we're talking about how crazy life is. And it was really funny because I'm pretty sure like we had like Chick-fil-A in hand after door dashing it to the hotel. Like it was so real. I loved it.
Yeah, it was sweet for me too. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about having you. Okay, so for those who may not know who you are, can you just give our listeners a little something? Tell them about you, what you do, and your family.
Yeah. So I'm Tara and I live in Oregon, and I married my high school sweetheart 5 years ago. And we have a 3-year-old. He's almost 4. So if you can do the math, we had a surprise quite quickly into our marriage. And he was like, 4 months into marriage, we're pregnant. So that was quite the surprise. We have Hunter, who's 3.5, and then we have Grayson, who is almost 10 months old. So we have 2 little boys right now in this season, and it's my favorite roles is wife and mom. But when I'm not chasing them during nap times, I love getting to write books. I've written 2 books and a podcast as well. I have a podcast called Truth Talks with Tara. And I think just like the vein throughout everything that I hope to do is just to help women know God's word and love God's word and live God's word. Because I think those 3 things are kind of this domino effect in our lives. And I've seen it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
It's awesome. I love it so much. Okay, so you're not a pastor's wife, but you are very heavily in ministry, teaching, podcasting, books within your own church, all of the things. And so you definitely know what it's like to be busy and to be a leader. And a lot of us have experienced a breakdown sometime within our ministry. And that's something that you experienced as well. And that was kind of a turning point for what God was going to unfold in your life. So can you kind of share what happened and how it revealed that you were living distracted and disconnected from God?
Yeah. Well, you said breakdown, and it's not like, hey, let's just break this down. It's like literally I had a mental, physical, emotional breakdown.
Yeah.
So I wrote a new book and it's called Overbooked and Overwhelmed, and it's how to keep up with God when you're just trying to keep up with life. And this book came out of a season where, like you said, heavy in ministry, not just online, but off, and life was really full. And I say that not full in a lot of bad ways. There were some distractions, like you mentioned, but also a lot of good things. And I was just standing in the middle of being a new mom with my first and being postpartum and about to launch my first book, and also trying to make meals and work out and get 8 hours of sleep, like just all the stuff in life, right? And in the midst of that, I think in our minds as Christians, you think, okay, when I feel this way, I should run to Jesus, right? Like we know that in our heads, right? But I think for a lot of us, and like I witnessed in my own life, was instead of doing that, I was craving this rest and this comfort and this just like relief from how intense life was, that I ultimately just started distracting myself. And that looked like numbing out on social media. That looked like distracting myself with even good things, right? Like work and ministry and my family. Again, good things, but I was putting a lot of my worth and a lot of my success. Like if I achieve this, then that's going to help me find some relief. That's going to help me find some satisfaction. But ultimately they became distractions, and it kind of just buried me down this road of being more overwhelmed, not just by my calendar, but in my spiritual life. And so you mentioned this breakdown moment, and I talk about it like literally in the first page of the book, where I was doing dishes at around midnight, which for me, I'm not a night person. I'm usually a morning person.
Okay.
And so my husband comes in and he's a night owl. And so he's like, Tara, what are you doing? Scrubbing this casserole dish at midnight.
Woo.
Yeah, I don't know. This was crazy. So I was there, and my husband clearly was like, this is so out of character. And I said, I can't go to sleep right now. And he's like, you need to. Why can't you? And I said, if I don't finish the dishes, then everything's going to fall apart. And I remember vocalizing that. And I think my husband probably looked at me sideways, because that was just a crazy thing to say. But I remember like that silly little moment revealing something in me where it's like, wait, there's something so off here, where I think that I have to do this or otherwise everything is going to fall apart. And it just revealed that there was this false narrative, this lie from the enemy, that everything was on my shoulders and that I had to achieve it. And I had to run myself into the ground for the name of Jesus. And that's really what started this whole journey of like breaking down and then picking back up.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like you were just preaching to me just a little bit, Tara.
Yeah.
Well, and
I was like, I've been there.
Also, I love the way that she put the numbing out on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've really never even thought of it like that. I mean, I see people that are, constantly scrolling and everything. And it almost becomes, it is an addiction. It can become an addiction where you can't put your phone down. But to numb out yourself, to kind of think about that, it's a really interesting way. But it's like that, I don't want to be in my reality. Yeah. So I'd rather be in someone else's and to numb out.
And that's good. Someone else's reality. Because I'm thinking back to just that stage that you're in with young children. I went through postpartum depression and did not understand that that's what I was walking through. My husband came home one day and he looked at me and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Why would you say that?" And I'm like sobbing, crying, like, "What do you mean?" But he knew that something was not right. He probably could have worded it a little better, but his heart was there. But I do remember in that time of my life, just constantly doing, just so I didn't have to process and like sit in those feelings or like know what was going on. And I just wanted to be okay. Like, I'm fine. I'm a pastor's wife. I'm supposed to be fine. I love Jesus, trying to convince myself. Yeah. But I think I remember things like that. I remember my baby always cried. And I remember at one point I was just like, okay, he takes like 10, 15-minute naps. That's it during the day. That's it. Wow. That's all I get. And just was colicky and crying all the time. And I remember like just taking those 10, 15 minutes to go scrub a toilet.
Yeah.
I really probably should not have been scrubbing the toilet, but it's the only thing I could feel like I have control in this area. And I will say, like, just recently, I think the Lord broke me a bit. This was very recent. These ladies know I had a collision in life here. I don't have babies anymore, but another like come to Jesus multiple moments, not one moment, where I was just like, I am trying to literally control everything in my life and I cannot. And I'm trying to make everybody happy and I'm trying to have my house look perfect. And literally it was like the Lord had to wake me up. My house literally was flooded by somebody who was fixing a pipe. And now I haven't had a kitchen sink or cabinets for months now at this point.
No.
It's been a whole thing with insurance, but it wasn't just that. It was other things. I told them I had gone for a walk and I just was like, Lord, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. We had somebody, literally somebody who saw us on social media who went out of their way to write emails to each of our staff about how horrible we were and bad representations of Jesus and all of this. It was and then some other things too. And so all of that, I remember just walking and going, Lord, I don't want to do it anymore. Can I just go home and hide in my house with my kids and do nothing? I was at that breaking point, and it was that was a breakthrough for me. And so I'm not going to keep talking because we want to hear your story, but just so you know,
that's
we
good.
all need this.
Absolutely.
And there are pastors' wives who need this desperately.
100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book a little bit more because like Stephanie said, pastors' wives, I think could really benefit from this. I know would really benefit from this along with everyday Christian women. But pastors' wives are often really, really bad at resting. We just like to go, go, go. And we feel like we're overbooked a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is your heart behind this book, and how do you hope that it impacts church leadership itself?
Oh, that's such a great question. I've only had one other interview during this book tour season. I'm talking to ministry leaders, and that was actually one of my favorite ones. And not because I think I have it figured out, but because I don't know, I didn't anticipate it being something that was for ministry leaders specifically. I mean, it obviously makes sense. When I was writing, I guess I wasn't thinking that. And it's really cool to hear that it's meeting a felt need. And seeing that, because like you said, I think I see so many around me, my husband's family has been in ministry for generations. And there's this, I don't know, there's this false idea that you have to be buttoned up and keep it all together. And then what do? You burn out, and there's moral failure, and there's other stuff that just as a result of not, keeping up with Jesus, as we talk about in the book. And so really my heart behind this, I think if I were to say two things that I really want people to know walking away from this, I think the first thing is knowing that it is possible to be able to, what I say is keep up with God in the middle of a busy schedule. And what I mean is we're not going to be able to go to Hawaii every year. We're not going to be able to take a sabbatical all the time. We're not going to be able to have these crazy, ethereal Sabbaths always, right? But what we can do is to be able to have these simple but powerful rhythms in the middle of an overwhelming schedule that actually helps us to handle that better. I actually write a line in the book where it talks about hey, this isn't clean yourself up before you come to God. This isn't throw your phone in the woods before you come to Jesus. This is actually bring your overwhelm to the overwhelming love of Jesus and capacity of Jesus, who can carry you when life is too much. And then I think the second thing I would say too is just talking about what it looks like to not forsake that rest and to redefine what we think that rest is. I think that goes hand in hand with the first thing I just said too, that it's not going to be laying horizontal and taking a nap or binging out on these things, but it's how do we have those rhythms that even when we're pushing really hard, putting on a Christmas program or getting a kids camp going, or, leading our staff through something, how can I make sure that I don't miss this? And then once we actually see what God's heart is for rest itself from a biblical lens, I'm going to tell you that once I started learning this over the last 2 years or so, I don't ever want to go back. I actually I kind of want to rest all the time now. Maybe sometimes I'm oh wait, I just want to do this all the time. But it's contagious, and it's because it's what we were made for. But I think we overcomplicate it.
Well, I love that too, because when we're doing retreats, pastor wife retreats, we try to teach on being still and taking that Sabbath. But I think we have in our heads how it should look, whether it's from a pastor or a Bible study or just what you imagine it should be. And since I can't make that happen, then I'll just continue to go on with life. And maybe one day I'll have that rest or Sabbath or be still time. And it's the way you said that, it is the rhythms, it becomes second nature. It becomes something that if you have 10 minutes, you go do whatever that rest is for 10 minutes. And then in 2 hours, if you have another 10 minutes, do it. It's just making those conscious decisions to make it happen. And then it becomes the overflow. Then you're oh yeah, I know I can go, for me, it's going outside. So I know now, if I'm at the house working, that I need to take breaks and just go outside and walk
Yeah.
around in my yard, walk around my pool, sit and read, but I think all of us have to kind of find what works for us, and it's going to be different for all of us.
I learned a lot from her in that area.
Yeah.
Just going outside,
so
just being with
good.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It
changed
helps.
my life.
It's simple, right? But it's powerful.
Right,
And I also think I talk about in the book too, that we have to redefine what we think is a priority. Like 2 years ago, I think 3 years ago, I would have told more like 3 years ago, I think I would have told you that in a day on my paper planner, on my phone planner, because I'm very type A, that I had 30 priorities. And what I mean by that is 30 things that absolutely had to be done. And if they didn't, then like everything would fall apart. That's my mindset. Right. And it's okay to have like maybe 30 tasks, but like priorities as in like the most important things of the day. And so now it was a journey of multiple years, but now I don't have 30 priorities. It's more like 5, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we really pressure ourselves into thinking that some of these things are so absolute. And when we do that, we forego rest, and we also forego trusting God to meet us in our margin and to be like, Lord, I have just a few things. Can you fill me up with your capacity? Because man, I think when we think there's 30 things that we need to absolutely get done in a day, we're not depending on the Lord, right?
Right.
We're like, I'm going to do this. I'm striving. 30 is my, is my goal, right? I don't know. So I think also that there's an importance there that we have to remember, like, what is actually a priority in life, right?
Yeah.
Well, and also remembering as like, especially ministry leaders, like we're kind of talking to and about, is that person will be okay if we don't go meet with them today or don't call them back today, that we schedule them far in advance, that, the things that we think, you know what, that work I do have, I can do it tomorrow. I really can. Nothing is going to die if I don't do work right this moment. Like mentally, I had to like practice saying that to myself to go, it's okay. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. And if you want to play the long game, not just in life, but in eternity, which I think all of us as Christians do, and I hope we want to. I read another chapter, I think it's chapter 8, where we talk about perseverance and like grit and resilience, where we're actually just thinking about like if I actually want to do this well, if I want to be received by Jesus and hear the words, well done, because I wasn't burning myself out every week and then having to rebuild and falling into sin and pride, which, okay, I first want to say like there's grace for, and there's no shame for that because I've done that so many times in my life. But like, do I want to keep living that way when God has given me, John 10:10, a more abundant, full way of living? And so I think it's just also thinking about that perseverance, right? And especially I think, like you said, we're talking to ministry leaders, pastors' wives, like we want to do it well, right? And we want to be around, not just physically, but like mentally and spiritually. We want to be present for not only God, but other people for the long haul. So like, how are we helping ourselves to do that?
Yeah.
See, I think that's the key, is the long haul, because I am one of those people with this long list. And a lot of that too will be like, call so-and-so. You need to check in with so-and-so. Like what, because, and Jessica knows this, she's very much a very personable, like she's constantly on the phone, counseling people, talking to them. And as a pastor's wife or a ministry leader or a pastor in your church, you are called to people and to be there for them and to point them to Jesus. But the problem is we're not always pointing them to Jesus. We are trying to be the God in their life, or like, yes, but I love, because this is another thing I've learned from Jessica, is to ask people like, but have you even talked to God yet? Have you talked to him yet? And have you spent time? She has looked at me and said, have you fasted and prayed over that? And I was like, well, I was going to go do that now.
Right now.
Because I hadn't done that yet. But I feel like we're not teaching the people where they're supposed to go first. We're constantly, and this is the problem, we have a bunch of little gods, which is another reason why there's so much moral failure, why people become just celebrities and they're not pastoring. And so that's like a huge problem. And it has to do with that. It's like, well, I have to be all things to all people, and we just literally cannot do that. And I think recognizing that and saying, hey, I want to be here for you. Have you talked to God first? Let me just preface that and see, where they're at there. Because a lot of times it's no. And then can we meet and chat over coffee on such and such day at such and such time? I want us both to be praying before we get there. Like setting that instead of being like, yes, I'll meet you right this second. Because a lot of times that's me. And this is a huge problem for me of like, oh, I'll come right now. Yes. I got you. They
Yeah.
need me. They need me.
Mm.
But who do they need, really?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
that's hard.
good.
It's a hard balance for pastors and pastors'
Yeah,
wives.
I can
know?
imagine. And from my experience, not being a pastor's wife, but just from in my life, and maybe you guys can relate to this, I realized the moment I become too busy and honestly too self-absorbed was when I realized, like, just what you said, Stephanie. I asked myself, when was the last time I prayed? When was the last time I asked God about his wisdom on this? And honestly, there was a period of my life where I like could not tell you the last time that I like prayed longer than like a second or two, like more than just like, Jesus help me, which again is a fine prayer. But like, I just realized my prayer life was so lacking, and it realized that I had become so self-absorbed. It realized that I had not been relying on help from not only other people, but from the Lord. And that was a surefire sign for me.
Yeah. Gosh, so good. Okay. So I want to kind of shift the conversation just slightly, but I know in your book, you do talk about two things. You contrast the abundant life with the overcommitted life. So I want you to take a moment. I want you to define those two things for us and then tell us those practical steps. What can we do to begin moving toward a more fulfilled life and not just this overcommitted craziness?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up knowing the Lord. I accepted him when I was a little child. Like, I've known him my whole life. I've read the Bible from cover to cover so many times. I'm grateful for that. But I think, I say this all the time, I think in some ways, because I've known the Lord so long, I've kind of grown comfortable. And so a lot of the verses I would read growing up have come back to me in a fresh way. Not that the truth has changed, but like I've seen it in a new way.
Right.
And John 10:10 talks about that abundant life, right? And so when I was studying for this book and writing, that was one of the verses that kind of pointed out to me. And I realized that a lot of my life I had been living under this assumption and kind of pulling from the text, thinking that the abundant life meant like no room for anything, like lacking space. Like I just had to totally maximize every moment because I'm doing it for Jesus. If you're watching, I'm doing air quotes, doing it for Jesus, right? But then I realized that actually I was living the opposite and meaning that I was lacking space for Jesus. So I was overcommitted to the point where I didn't have that breathing room to hear from him and be like, is this actually what you want me to do? Or am I doing it for the right reasons? And so that was a huge shift for me. And when I look at John 10:10 now, and we look at what it actually means when he said that, and actually the abundant life means a life full of purpose and intentionality and presence and peace with God. And in seasons of my life, those words have not marked my life, presence and peace and all those things. And so I think some simple shifts to move towards that, I think, is to ask yourself the question of like, is my life marked by peace, abundance in Jesus's presence? Is it marked by the presence, like a regular time in his presence? Is it marked with intentionality? Meaning like, is my time, like Stephanie was talking about, like we've all been talking about, like, is it intentional in the yeses and nos that I am giving? Like, what are my motivations for this? I think we all, whether we're in ministry or not, if we have a cell phone, I think we all need to analyze our motivations and be like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because that is a big, big tell. I would also say just getting around people that you love and that you trust and asking them to honestly speak into your life and say like, in what areas do you see that I could be needing, some help and to delegate and like where am I kind of falling short here? It takes humility, right? But like my husband has been that person for me where he's like, Tara, this is too much because you're spread thin here. Or, this is slipping because this is happening. So having someone, because when you're so overwhelmed and so overbooked, you get in just like this funnel or this tunnel maybe where you just can't see out. And you can't see reality. Reality's still there. It's just really hard because it's overwhelming. And so you need someone that can kind of tether you back to not only reality, but to God's truth. And then I think the next thing I would say when it comes to like kind of getting back to more of an abundant, less overcommitted life is reminding yourself of what it actually means to say yes and to say no. One of my favorite chapters in the book, it was really hard to write, but like also really cathartic for me, was just talking about how Christians think that no is a cuss word. We think that if we say no, especially ministry leaders, I mean, you guys are nodding your heads, right? Like we don't want to say no because like we've all been alluding to, we feel like we need to help people, which our motivations, those intentions are really good. I don't want to shame that at all. Like we want to use our gifts and we want to help people and we want to draw people closer to the Lord. But we also sacrifice our well-being, our spiritual health, our own relationship with God that then in turn helps other people, right?
Yeah.
When we are just yes men, yes women all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about Nehemiah in that chapter and how he was a man who knew his intentionality with Christ. Like he knew what he was made to do and his purpose. And so when he had other opposition, when he had other choices presented in front of him, he always went back to, okay, what am I called to do? And from that, I will give my yes or my no. And that no is still a godly word, right? Because those no's can also, they give us a trade-off, right? Like when we say no, we get to say yes to something else that God may have. We get to say yes to something else that he may be wanting to teach us, and maybe a stiller season, maybe a different circumstance where he can actually break through and speak to us. And so I would also say that. I would also say to learn what it looks like to evaluate your yeses and your nos in your season.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
That's real good.
You've been good at that, Jenna.
Huh?
The yeses and the nos, the boundaries.
And the no's. Yes, I have had to really evaluate that over this past year. And I have gotten better. I love what you said earlier about God meeting you in your margin. I had no margin. I was that person that had no margin. I had to ask the Lord to help me in that area because I am one of those just wants to do stuff and get stuff done. There's always something that needs to be done, right? I was you with the 30 things on my list.
Yeah.
And even putting things on my list for the day as the day went on, as I was checking things off, I was just adding more things to the list. So, but yes, it is something that has really blessed me this past year, and being able to realize and seek the Lord in my yeses and my nos. And it's okay to say no. It is okay, because if it's not what God's calling you to right now, then that means he's got something else for you, but you can't see it unless you're saying the no's sometimes.
Right. No, and I also think this kind of came to me later after I wrote the book, but not that it's all about, like, this is not about image necessarily, like, you know, like a superficial image, but I was really convicted after and having these conversations with people about the book that, like, in my seasons of saying so many yeses and not saying no's and not having boundaries and not honoring my God-given limitations, all these things, I probably was not a very good witness to the world and to people around me, because I'm pretty sure, I can't see from outside of my body, you know, outside looking in, but I'm pretty sure that what people saw was someone who was strung out, anxious all the time, was just frenzied and like not rested. Like my hair was on fire. I'm pretty sure that's how people perceive me. And again, there's no shame in that. And like there's seasons, and like know that there's God's grace, and like, I mean, the right people will not shame you for it. But I also just, it's sobering to think about, like, that matters too. Like if I claim to follow Jesus, who came to give that abundant life, right? Like I want to live that way so that people can see that that's possible in the midst of life not slowing down. Because really, again, that's why the book was written. Because it's like, I'm not, like, life will not slow down for a lot of us, or any of us in our own ways. But like, how can we still be like that present posture in the middle of that? And so I love that you said that, Jenna, because I think that speaks to a lot of people's situation. And boundaries are such a Christian-y cliche thing right now. But I think if we get away from boundaries being selfish, like I want to be comfortable, so I'm saying no.
Right.
Because I feel like a lot of conversations around boundaries can be like that, where it's like, I don't want to do anything. I'm protecting my peace, right? Like I don't know, whatever that means. And it feels selfish, but it's like, actually boundaries can be from a place of holiness and from just wanting to be right with the Lord. And then in turn, it does bless people.
Yeah, for sure.
Boundaries and selfishness, two different things.
Yeah, for sure.
People who say they got boundaries, but they just selfish. Yeah. That ain't right.
Right. And I do think that a lot of us ministry leaders are real good about telling everybody else they need boundaries, but are we really creating them for ourselves?
Nope. Yeah, them ourselves. Yeah.
So
that's good.
That's good.
Hey, friend, we will get right back to our episode, but we want to take a moment and thank our patrons. You guys keep our podcast going.
If you are not a patron and you would like to consider donating to our podcast ministry, we would be so grateful. And we might even do a happy dance.
When you become a patron, you get perks like being the first to hear about special info and retreats. You get bonus episodes, monthly devotionals, lock screens, and more.
Plus, we have added a new $1 tier for those who believe in us and what we're doing, just because you love us.
So head on over to our show notes and click on the Patreon link to learn more. Now let's get back to our episode.
Okay, so you kind of alluded to the community just a minute ago when you were talking. Yeah. And so we talk a lot about community, especially within church leadership and within our church. Yeah. And you emphasize that well. And so how do community and accountability help us avoid getting overwhelmed and to live more intentionally for Jesus? And you speak on that in your book. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote about it because again, still not perfect about it, but so much better. The last couple of years, I didn't know how to ask for help. Like, I think especially being a new mom and feeling like, well, as the wife and the mom, I like have to do this and this and this. Like, that's how I'm a godly woman. That's how I'm a Proverbs 31 woman, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I didn't ask for help, but after everything came crashing down, I realized that it wasn't me like accepting defeat to ask for help. For example, like asking my mom and my mother-in-law, who are completely available to hang out with my boys and actually love to do that. And like, it's not even babysitting. They love to do it.
Yeah.
Or asking my husband to be like, hey, after dinner, can I like, hide away and get something done and then come back? And I think just those things, I thought they were weaknesses about asking for someone to help me, or maybe setting down a fancy dinner this night because we have to go to an extracurricular or whatever that looks like. I think for me, realizing that community was not only ready and excited, but like that's actually the point of it, right? In the body of Christ, like different members, and also realizing that people want to use their gifts. I mean, I've had my mom and my husband and my mother-in-law and other friends say, Tara, like, I wish you would have told me that you were going through that when you were, or I wish you would have asked me for help because I was there. I am here. And so I think when we talk about being overbooked and overwhelmed, like understanding that, again, going back to, I think that perseverance part too, like doing it for the long haul and doing it well. We need other people to help us, not just like in the practicals, but also in advice and in even just prayers, being like, hey, I'm having a hard day. I don't know if I can get all this done this week. I just need a prayer. Can you just pray for me? Right. That is so vital, and it keeps us on course. And so I would say to the person that's just like, I can't ask for help, I don't know who to help, I would also just say, I mean, we're talking about it, like your church body. If you don't have family around you, like ask for your church body. Look for, I think, just different ways. Get creative with what that looks like. I know I'm super blessed. I got grandparents out the wazoo that live like a minute and 5 minutes away from me. But I just think we have to be looking for the people that are already there.
Yeah.
And also not like dissuade people that want to use their gifts. Like let God use people in your life. Why would you, okay, I'm saying this because of me too. Why would we why would we rob people of using the gifts that God has given them? Like, that's so selfish. Like they want to use what God has given them. Like, let's do it because that's so fulfilling. And that's glorifying to the Lord when we let people do that.
Yeah, that's a perspective shift for sure. Like, because you feel like you're burdening somebody sometimes, but like it might be their gift. So I think that perspective shift.
I think the hard part that I've struggled with over the years with that, in being a pastor's wife, is that I know what everyone is dealing with. So if I know what everyone is dealing with within our church community, and then I need help, or I need help in a certain ministry or all that, and I already know all the places they're serving, and I know the stressors and the things, that's where it's hard, a little bit harder to go, okay, I would like to ask so-and-so because I know their gifting is hosting or this, but, their husband is struggling or, their kid is wayward. And so you have to, I find it harder these days with church community, because so much of the church community, I know what's going on and I'm counseling through things. And so I have to really go, God, are there people outside the church that I can ask? Or God, you know how they're really feeling inside. To me, it looks like their life is falling apart, but do they need this to kind of get outside of their bubble? Because I don't want to put too much pressure on them, but I also don't want them to think that they're not needed in the body.
Right.
That's a big thing that for me, I'm just having to quit. I feel like it's a give and take with the Lord going, God, just please let me know if I'm supposed to ask them, because I also don't want to put too much, Yeah.
Okay. I love that insight. And that's something that I wouldn't have thought of, but I love that. I also think if we're talking about this community thing, so a real life example, 3 weeks ago, almost, my husband's grandpa passed away, and also my papa, sweetest man ever. And it's been really hard. But thankfully we have hope. We know where he is. He's with Jesus. But in just the most practical sense too, we have a new pastoral couple at our church and we've become friends, and she texted me, and it's our grandpa, right? It's not like it's our dad, but he's our grandpa, right? We're able to, keep going with life and make meals and, all these things. I mean, grief is still there, but we're able to keep going. But she texted me and she's like, hey, can I bring dinner tonight? And I'm like, at first I'm like, we don't need dinner. Like, I mean, I think we're okay. Like I can make food tonight, But I'm like, no. Like she wants to serve. And also that would be really helpful. Sure. Yeah. Like, I got 2 crazy boys running around just in general. Yeah. So it was just one of those ways where the Lord was like, just like let them help, but then also receive. Right. And I think ministry leaders, it's really hard to receive things because we feel like we constantly have to give. But I think one last thing I wanted to add to this when you guys were talking was the community accountability. I think it kind of ties into, like, this is hard, but surrendering some aspects in your season of life. Mm-hmm. So if it's really overwhelming and really hard, like, again, like letting people help you, right? It is helpful in those overwhelming seasons. But also just like laying down certain things, like also realizing that in the practicals, your laundry and your dinners and all that kind of stuff, they're always in process. So like not feeling like they're a completion on your list. They're kind of always in process. So giving yourself grace there. But in what thing do you maybe need to lay down in the practicals? Like, maybe it is getting like, if you can afford it, a grocery, like a meal service. You don't have to worry about meals because it's intense. Or maybe it's asking someone to take your kids to and from, this event or something like that. Like, I just feel like sometimes we just like need to give ourselves grace that each season is different. Mm-hmm. And we got to lay some stuff down in order to do other things well, Oh,
I love that.
I just had
that was a tangent, but
No, that was good.
It was very good.
I will say, because I feel everything she just said. But recently we have a staff retreat that we're supposed to be going on, and we don't have family here, and both sides of the family could not help. And so we were like, oh goodness, are we just not going to go? Can we just not go? But then I had a few people look at me and say, you've got community. Let your community help you. And so somehow the word kind of got around. And I started having people from the church come to me and say, hey, I can check in with your 2 that are homeschooled every day at lunch and see what's going on with them. And I had someone else who said, I can stay at your house all week at night. She's a teacher, but she'll come and stay. And then I had someone else say, I can do pickup, or I can do drop off for your oldest who's at school and he's on the basketball team. I can go to a game, or I can, but it was like, not just one person. It was like people coming together because they couldn't do all of it, but they could do something. Allowing them to do that and humbling myself a bit, because it is humbling to be like, I need a lot of help. That's hard.
Yeah. And I love that you allowed it, and you were like, okay, and now you get to go.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you, Lord, because we need it. My husband needs it.
So good. Yeah.
So Tara, along these same lines, we've seen that so many pastors and their families wait until they're like completely burnt out, right? To take a sabbatical, to take some time away.
Yeah.
Often because their churches don't understand the need for their rest.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of misconceptions about rest in the church.
Yeah.
So from scripture, how do you define true rest? And how can we make it a regular rhythm rather than a last resort when we're burnt out?
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Can I include that in my book? Regular rhythm, not a last resort. Thank you. That's great. I love that. Let's add an addendum. No, it's so good. When studying for this, I actually loved diving into scripture. I mean, starting all the way in Genesis, when we look at how God created the world, right? Like we have to start back there, right? God didn't have to rest because he had limited capacity. He has all capacity, but he did it for a couple reasons. He did it because he wanted to set an example for us, right?
Absolutely.
And he also just wanted us to enjoy, to look around, to be present, right? I mean, he says, I want to set an example for you to not only reconnect with me, because I've always kind of defined rest as like this reconnection, revival, refreshment with God, not necessarily a nap, right? I think that's how we all think of it, but also just like being in awe, like being slow enough, and not necessarily, again, like this isn't just one thing, because I think rest, and we'll get into it, can look like different things, but just allowing yourself the breathing room just to be in awe of God and to worship him and to trust that he is who he says he is, and to trust that he is going to provide, and trust that we can take some time off and the world's not going to stop spinning. And then, just reminding us of the character of God, really. And so we've come to see that even through scripture, we see the Israelites, right? Like God told them, like, hey, like only store up manna for one day and then do it the next day and the next day. And the only day that you can store up 2 portions without it going bad is the day before the Sabbath. And then on the Sabbath, you can just trust that I will provide, that I will make sure that that food stays good and that it doesn't go moldy and doesn't get infested by bugs like it would previously. And so we see God's heart through that. And then we see Jesus come onto the scene, that he came to give us ultimate rest through salvation. Yeah. And then we also just see that laid out practically. And now, while I don't think that keeping Sabbath to a T, like we see in the Old Testament, is make or break for your faith, I do still see it, and many other people do, as really important to our relationship with God. And so rest doesn't, again, look the same necessarily for everyone, but it is anything that reconnects you and revives you and refreshes you in the presence of God and with other people. Yeah. And so even just practically in my own life, what that looks like for me is, spending time with my family, taking social media off of my phone, creating with my hands, right? Kind of a nod back to our creative Father by creating, by getting outside. I love that, Jessica, that you're a huge proponent to that too, like getting outside, just breathing, being still. And Jess Connolly is another author and friend that I love. And she talks about this in her book, that it's not always going to look the same way as someone else, right? So maybe your rest is, I need to work out and move my body and get those endorphins running. Maybe my rest is just sitting and reading a book. Maybe my rest is going to a coffee shop with my kids. Maybe it's being away from my kids for a little bit. Like, what does that look like for you? But it's not just a selfish time where I get to catch up on some sleep, but it's actually like, what can fill me back up so then I can run better with the Lord? I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of feel like I forgot it in the middle of that. But
no, I think that was great.
It was just Holy Spirit led.
I think that was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
Okay. So right along with this, if you could say something to the pastor's wife listening who completely feels disillusioned, she feels maybe apathetic, disconnected from her faith. She's Martha-ing great, but marrying not so much because of all the ministry demands. What would you say to encourage revival and rest in her heart? Just one thing, if you could say one thing.
Oof. I'm not good at just saying one thing. Let me see. I think I would say to take the pressure off and go back to the simple things. There's a chapter in my book, and it just talks about how I think we put so much pressure on ourselves, and revival seems like this really big thing, when really it's just found in the daily, simple, practical things that really add up, right? It's like not overhauling your life, because that's the last thing that woman needs to hear when you're already exhausted. Yeah. And it's just going back to the simple things, I guess,
That's good.
Okay, so with going on the simple route, what are some tips that you would give a pastor wife that is just overstimulated, exhausted? What are some just practical ways that she can put this into practice?
Yeah. Okay. I would actually say, and this may be strange, but I found so much fruit. I'm very type A. I'm very routine oriented, but I've also had to be more flexible as I've had more kids, and, life is crazy and seasons are crazy. And so I would actually say to that person, these simple things, like break out of the mold, like get creative for a season, right? Like maybe you're doing a Bible study and it's fine and dandy, but maybe you need to switch. Maybe you need to like not journal and just meditate on a chapter of the Bible, like for a week, right? I don't know. Just get creative. Listen to an audio Bible, write down your prayers, say your prayers out loud in the pickup line. Like do something different that is still at the heart of what it means to spend time with God. Because I think that is a revival in a sense for me, when it's like sometimes not that the word of God or that God has become stale, but that sometimes routines can become stale. And we need like something that kind of like kickstarts that again. Yeah. And for me, that's been really powerful.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that's the key is change it up, do something different. Like, you do the same thing every single day. It's chaos. Like it ends up just being, I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking even just friendship, you do that.
Oh,
so why
sure.
would we not do it with our relationship with God?
100%.
Like we sit there and like, we play games, we chat, we go places, we do different things.
Fun.
Yeah.
Just have fun, honestly.
So for the listeners and for the people out there who are like, okay, I'm ready for this change. I'm truly ready. Yeah. What are some of the most impactful exercises or reflection questions from your book for us?
Oh, that's a great one. I wrote the book and I'm drawing a blank. So there are reflection questions at the end of every chapter, which there's like 3 to 4, which you can go read when you get the book. But I would probably say, we talked about rest. I think one of the questions that I loved is talking about rest and like how you redefine it and what are some creative ways you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also like I love that we talked about like have fun, like live a full, I say this in the book, live a full color dimensional life that God has given you and find that in the creative ways in the world and with the people that he's given you. I would also say, we talked about distractions just briefly at the beginning. Take an inventory, a physical inventory of what you are giving your time to. And like, again, not necessarily just bad things, right? I think we demonize a lot of social media, but all of us are on social media and love it. Also hate it sometimes, but make an inventory of what you're giving your time to. And then from there, you can take a really honest look at maybe what can go, what I can give less time to, and then where I can put the most important things back in. So those are 2 of the many in the book.
Love that. Okay. So much wisdom in this conversation. I really appreciate, I know we all appreciate you coming and sharing and just speaking into those of us in church ministry. But to wrap our time up, we always ask 3 rapid fire questions at the end of every episode. You're not a pastor's wife, but we just slightly changed them to match you. Okay. So if you could go back, back in time and give your pre-ministry leader self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't do it alone.
That's good.
That's good.
Love
so
it.
Good.
Is that rapid enough?
That was
so rapid enough and so perfect.
Okay. So what do you do for fun, either by yourself or with your hubby, to get your mind off of everything that's going on in life?
2 things. Monopoly Deal, card game, and baking or cooking. I'm a big sourdough person. I also love cooking.
Oh,
nice.
Could you make us some sourdough bread?
Yes.
And send it through the screen.
Yes. I could make you sourdough bread, cinnamon rolls. I'm making ciabatta rolls for dinner tonight.
Ciabatta roll.
They're rising on the counter right now.
I'm sorry.
Amazing.
She is so far away from us.
I know.
I know.
It's not possible for us to drive to her.
Also, I don't know that she could ship it across state lines.
I feel like it'd be bad.
But we're just going to pretend that we
The postal connection would be like, is there any liquid fragile? What do they say? Liquid harmful in here?
Nope.
no.
No.
Okay. Last and final question. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you could tell the church congregation one thing without reservation and have them really listen and respond, what would you say?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do I say this? Don't take everything at face value. And I'm going to expand just quickly on that.
Mm-hmm.
When something is communicated or said, I think you need to realize there's stuff going on behind the scenes. And again, I'm not in vocational ministry, but I also have a mother-in-law and, other family members that are in ministry. And we've just heard so many things where such stuff happens because people as the congregation do not understand what's going on behind the scenes or the heart of it. And so I think that's what I would say.
Preach. Drop the mic.
Tara, thank you so much for just coming on and sharing. It was so good. And I think that people will be like, I want to know more. I mean, because I think this book is for everyone.
Yeah.
For
sure.
Yeah.
Men and women. We all need it. So
my dad loved it. It means my dad, but he loved it. So there's a plug there.
There we go.
He's a dude. He counts.
That's right.
That's fine.
Well, do you want to quickly just tell people where they can find you and, grab
How
your
they
book
can get
and
your
all the
book.
things?
Oh, thank you guys. Yes, this was a blast. I wish we could keep talking and we'll have to get you guys on my show and talk again. This was so fun. But I'm so grateful. Yeah. So if you found encouragement from this episode, I think you'd love the book, and you can grab Overbooked and Overwhelmed anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Christian Book. You can also get it in select Walmarts. So go check your local Walmart. It's really fun. And then you can listen to my podcast, Truth Talks with Tara, and find me on Instagram at Miss Tara Sun.
Yeah, we'll put all of those links in the show notes for everybody too.
Yes.
All
Thank you guys.
Okay, Tara, thank you so much. And guys, we love you. Until next time.
Bye.
Okay, friends, if you have enjoyed this episode as much as we have, please help us spread the word on Facebook and Instagram.
If you didn't know yet, Instagram is where all the fun is at. From dance reels on Wednesdays to spiritual encouragement and laugh out loud posts in between, there is something for everyone.
And last Last but certainly not least, if you could take a moment right now to stop what you're doing and give us a rating and review, even subscribe to our podcast, this seriously helps other people find us who wouldn't be able to otherwise. Thank you so much for your love and support. We hope you'll tune in next week.